Watch a man dying of thirst sometime, and the last thing you'd ever expect is what's lying all around him: snow. Acres of it, clean and white and deep, more water in one frozen meadow than a whole family drinks in a year. And there he is in the middle of it, lips cracked and split, throat gone tight, going under from thirst with the cure heaped up past his boots on every side he turns. I've watched the country do that to a man, and I've come near to it myself more than once, and tonight I'm going to tell you exactly how it happens, because it does not happen the way your good sense is telling you it must. That snow is a liar. The cleanest, prettiest, most harmless-looking liar this whole country ever made. A man scoops up a handful, packs it into his mouth, feels the cold of it and the wet of it, and thinks to himself, "There now, I'm drinking, I'm taking care of it," and the entire time his own body is quietly emptying itself out while he does it. So before you ever trust a fistful of snow to carry you through a hard day, sit with me here a few minutes by the coals, because this is one of those rare things that kills you for the exact reason that it feels like the thing keeping you alive. I'm not handing you book learning tonight. I've wintered in places where the nearest help was 2 full days off through the black timber, where my canteen froze solid as a river stone by the second night, and the only water left in the whole world was the snow packed under my own boots. I learned what it does the way the old men taught me, which was the hard way, by doing it wrong and barely living through the lesson. And the men who showed me this didn't pull it out of any manual either. They learned it dragging friends out of snowbanks. Good, capable men who'd done every single thing right, except the one thing nobody had ever bothered to tell them. And the one thing nobody tells you is this: snow is not water. Not yet, it isn't. It's the rumor of water, the promise of it, and the promise comes due before you ever collect. Pick up a big heaping double handful of the stuff, the kind that looks like it ought to fill a canteen, and let it melt all the way down in a tin cup by the fire. You'll find yourself staring at a thin little swallow in the bottom that wouldn't wet the back of your throat. All the rest of it was air. That's the first cruelty buried in the snow. A man parched half out of his mind can fill his mouth 10 times over and still have taken in less true water than a single honest cup would have handed him. He feels like he's drinking the whole creek. He's getting drops. But that hidden air, as mean a trick as it is, isn't even the dangerous part. So keep this question sitting in the back of your mind, because I'm going to set it down right here and walk away from it a while before I come back. If snow is mostly nothing but cold air, then why doesn't a freezing man just eat twice as much of it and make up the difference? Why does taking in more of the only water in sight push him further under instead of pulling him back? Hold tight to that one. The answer is the whole reason men die in snowfields with water on every side, and I promise you it is not what your common sense is whispering to you right this minute. Now here's where most folks go wrong, so stay in close to the fire. Most men carry the belief that water is just water. Cold or warm, melted or frozen, they figure once it's down the hatch it all does the same job, and out in the soft green months, maybe that holds. Out here in the killing cold, that belief is a shallow grave, because snow does not enter your body as water at all. It enters as ice, far below the freezing mark, hard and dry and cold as the very air it drifted down through. And something has to melt that ice before your body can pull a single useful drop out of it. There is exactly one stove in all that white country built to do that melting, and that stove is you, your own heat. The precise heat you are slowly freezing to death trying to hold inside you. So sit and think on what that truly means. The people who lived 1,000 winters running on this same hard ground never once trusted snow the way it lay. They melted it first, every single time, over a small flame or tucked into a skin bag held warm against the body, and they drank it down as honest liquid water the way the country intended water to be drunk. They feared the cold far more than they ever feared the thirst, and they understood down in their bones that you never, ever let the cold come in through your own mouth. The ones the country killed off were the newcomers, the prospectors and the soldiers and the green travelers who looked out at all that endless white and figured the water question was already answered for them, free and easy. They saw the snow, and they skipped the knowing. And that one gap, that single missing piece of understanding, was the whole difference between the men who walked out under their own power come spring and the men the drifts simply kept. So, let me lay out for you exactly what eating snow steals out of a man, because it doesn't rob you one way. It robs you three ways at the very same time, and the cruel part is, a man usually can't feel a one of the three until it's gone too far to fix. The first thing it steals is your heat, and it steals it from the worst possible place it could. Your body, when the deep cold comes pressing in from all sides, does a smart and ancient thing. It pulls its warmth back out of your fingers and your toes and your ears and your face, and it hoards every bit of that heat down deep in the center of you, where your heart and your lungs do their work. That's your body making a hard choice about what it intends to keep alive. That's why a frozen man's hands go white and clumsy and numb long before his core gives out. Now picture dropping a packed fistful of snow straight down into that warm, protected center. You've gone and thrown open the one door your body was fighting with everything it had to hold shut. You're pouring raw cold directly into the core it was rationing all its warmth to protect. And your insides have no choice but to burn down their last reserves of heat just to melt that ice and bring that belly back up to temperature. Every flake cost you warmth you were already running desperately short of. The second thing it steals is the very water the man went looking for in the first place. You'd think, the cold set aside for a moment, that at the least the fellow is getting himself hydrated. He is not. Between the air hidden inside the snow and the heat his body has to spend melting it all down, he ends up paying out more of his own water than the snow ever gives him back. The melting and the warming together wring the moisture right out of him from the inside. So the man drinks, and he comes up thirstier. He drinks again, and he's thirstier still. The snow takes more than it returns every time, and the harder he chases the relief, the deeper and steeper the hole gets under his feet. The third thing it steals is the hardest of all to see coming, and it's the one that actually puts him in the ground. It steals his judgment. Because every cold mouthful feels like progress. It feels like he's getting on top of the problem, handling it, doing the sensible thing. So instead of stopping, instead of standing back and building the one small fire that would genuinely save his life, he just keeps reaching down for another handful, lulled and soothed by the feel of wet and cold against his tongue. Dead certain he's doing right by himself, all the way up until the moment his legs fold under him and won't come back. The snow doesn't only chill him and dry him out. It talks him gently into holding the very course that's killing him. Now, let me show you how the old hands did it instead, because the fix is so plain and so cheap it'll almost make you angry that men died for the want of it. When the cold had me out past my frozen canteen, here is the whole of what I did. I gathered the smallest amount of dry wood that would catch and hold a low, steady flame, because out there you cannot waste fuel any more than you can waste heat. I set my tin can or my cup near the edge of that flame, not buried in the heart of it. And here is the trick the old men swore by that nobody thinks of. You never start with a can crammed full of dry snow over heat, because dry snow against hot metal will scorch and stick and go bitter and waste your precious fire on nothing. You start with a small swallow of liquid water in the very bottom, even just a mouthful you've thawed against your body first, and you feed the snow in slow, a little at a time, letting each batch go to water before you add the next. Patient, unhurried. And as that can warmed and that snow fell into honest water, I drank it down warm, never cold, and I felt the difference go all the way to my feet. That right there is the entire skill. A small fire, a little patience, and the discipline to melt before you drink. If you're getting something out of this, take half a second and subscribe. I sit by this fire every single week, handing down the old ways the rest of the world let quietly slip through its fingers. Now let me walk back to that question I set down a while ago. Why does eating more snow drag a man further under instead of pulling him back up? Here it is, laid out plain in the firelight. Out in the cold country, water and heat are not two separate things a man can trade one against the other as he pleases. They are tied together so tight that every cold drop you take in is a direct withdrawal from your warmth. So the more snow a freezing man eats, the more of his heat he spends melting it, and the more heat he spends, the closer the cold creeps in toward his unguarded core. He is not filling himself up at all. He is burning himself down to chase a thin little puddle. That is how a man dies of thirst with clean water lying all around him in every direction. The cold takes him from the inside out while the thirst keeps gnawing from the outside in, both of them working at once, and the snow he keeps shoveling down feeds the first enemy even as it utterly fails against the second. He's not drinking. He's paying. And there's a second trap lying in wait for the man who finally wises up and goes looking for real liquid water, so let me steer you clear of it right now. When you go hunting water in this frozen country, the clearest, prettiest, fastest running little stream you can lay eyes on is the very one most likely to put you flat on your back. I know how backward that lands. A bright creek skipping clean and cold over the stones looks like the purest thing the good Lord ever made. But clear running water is a road, and every living thing in that country travels it. The deer and the moose drink along it. Things die and lie rotting upstream where you'll never lay eyes on them. Sickness from a sick animal a full mile up washes its way down, and that gorgeous little brook carries every last bit of it straight down into your cup. There's a misery that comes from bad water that'll empty a man out both ends faster than any thirst, and out where there's no help coming, that emptying can finish what the cold started. The old hands learned to trust the water they'd boiled hard over their own fire long before they'd ever trust water that merely happened to look clean to the eye. Out here, pretty is not the same as safe. Pretty is the bait on the hook. So now, I'll be square with you, the way I'd want a man to be square with me, because I'd sooner you trust me than be dazzled by me. This is not coming for most of you. You are not going to perish in a snowfield this winter, not with a furnace ticking away in the wall, and a tap 10 steps from your bed, and a town just down the road. For this thing to truly take a man, he'd have to be already worn thin and lost in hard country with his water frozen solid and no easy way to a fire. The way a stranded driver run off a back road might end up, or a hunter who pushed too far and got caught out past dark. Not the way you're sitting right now, warm and easy and listening. But I'll tell you the exact same thing the country told every one of those men before it took them, which is that they all looked out at the clean snow piled up on every side and felt perfectly, completely safe, right up until the cold closed its hand around their chest and started to squeeze. And you can understand, too, why hardly anyone carries this knowing anymore, and it's got nothing to do with any plot or any cover-up. It comes down to the tap on the wall, plain and simple. A piece of survival wisdom only stays alive in people's heads for exactly as long as people actually need it to live. So the day the pipe finally reached the house, the day a man could turn a handle and watch clean, warm water come pouring out for next to nothing, the old knowing started to go dim. Nobody pays good money to remember how to coax water out of a frozen country when there's a faucet within arm's reach of the bed. And then it got worse, because the modern water trade took the old worry and quietly sold it right back to people with the danger flipped clean around. They put clear, sparkling water in a clear, sparkling bottle and stamped the word pure across the front. And they taught a whole people to believe that water you can see straight through is automatically water you can trust, which is the precise lie that lays a man out cold beside a clean mountain stream. There's no money in telling a man the prettiest water is the likeliest to sicken him. There's a fortune in selling him clear and calling it clean. And I won't leave this sitting as nothing more than a fireside tale, because this one is written down plain by men who had every reason to know it cold. The explorers who pushed the farthest into the frozen north came back home telling the same hard story, that a man could go just as cracked and parched in that endless white country as any man dying of thirst out on the desert sand, and with frozen water lying all around him the whole miserable way, because ice you have not melted is no water at all to a body that needs it. That very same rule sits today in the survival manuals they hand to soldiers and to pilots who might go down in cold country. Melt your water before it ever touches your lips, and never once let the snow do its melting inside your own body. When the men whose entire job is bringing other men home alive all land on the very same rule, independent of one another, across 100 years, that is a rule worth carving into your memory. So here is how you carry the whole of it. Small enough to tuck in a shirt pocket and not one bit of it costing you a dime. Never eat the snow, melt it first, every time without fail, and keep your own body well out of the melting work. Build the smallest fire that will do the job, and let the flame, never your belly, turn that ice into water. Start your can with a swallow of water in the bottom so the snow won't scorch and turn. Drink it warm whenever your fire will allow it, to carry a little heat back down into the center of you. And distrust the clear, pretty, fast-running water far more than you trust the plainer water you've boiled hard yourself. Do that much, and a country that has buried far better men than you or me will still let you walk out of it on your own 2 feet when the thaw finally comes around. And the part of it I find almost funny sitting here is how little the whole thing costs. A handful of patience, a small, careful fire, and the plain nerve to refuse the easy thing lying right there in front of your face. The entire answer was sitting in the flames the whole time. It's only that a cold, tired, frightened man wants the snow in his mouth right now, this second, and the fire asks him to wait a while, and waiting turns out to be the one single thing the deep cold makes hardest of all on a man. If there's a lesson buried under all this that runs bigger than snow and water, I expect it's this. The country doesn't generally kill you with the dangers that look like dangers. The bear, the cliff edge, the deep black cold, a man sees those coming and respects them and gives them a wide berth, and so they mostly leave him be. What kills a man out here is the thing that looks like help, the clean white snow, the bright clear stream, the easy answer sitting close and friendly at hand. The old hands learned, the hard way and over many winters, to put their deepest suspicion on whatever felt the easiest, and that one habit of doubt walked them home through more bad seasons than any single trick or tool ever did. So tell me, down in the comments under this fire, what's the one piece of cold weather wisdom your own people handed down that the rest of the world has plain gone and forgotten? Because I truly want to hear it. Next time, I'll hand you another one that runs dead against everything common sense tells you. An old rule about the fire itself, where the biggest, hottest, most roaring blaze a man can throw together is often the very one that leaves him shivering and miserable before the dawn ever comes. I'll show you exactly why that is, and what the old hands took the trouble to build in its place instead. Until then, mind your fire, and don't you ever let a field of clean white snow talk you into believing you're safe.